What I'm about to show you, it changes everything we thought we knew about Ripple and XRP. For years, people said XRP doesn't need to be a high price, that Ripple could run their payment networks just fine without the token ever moving. But now, yes, now, Ripple themselves are admitting it is the exact opposite. They are telling you that the price needs to be higher, not just a little bit, but a lot higher. And the timing, well, they couldn't be even more suspicious if you ask me, because just as Bitwise files its Fourth Amendment for an XRP ETF with the SEC, Ripple's leadership, it starts talking about how XRP's value directly impacts liquidity and global settlement speed. That's not coincidence, folks. What is it? You already know. It is coordination. So in this video, we're going to break down why Bitwise's latest filing signals that the US government is quietly preparing for XRP exposure. What Brad Garlinghouse really meant when he said that XRP reflects what it connects. How the ongoing US government shutdown might actually set up a massive rebound for crypto. And finally, why Ripple's own math proves that XRP must rise to fulfill its purpose. I hope you're ready, because we're about to go deep. As always, make sure if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to show us some love and do it in the free way, hit that thumbs up, folks. The more thumbs up we get, the more YouTube's going to push out the content. And we're starting right here, Bitwise. Their XRT, I tried to skip the P and get the T before the ETF. It was a mess, but XRP's ETF filings, that's right, the spark. This isn't a rumor. It's not clickbait. This is the real deal. Bitwise, you know, they are one of the most respected digital asset managers in the US. Did you know that? Well, they just filed Amendment number 4 for its XRP ETF with the SEC. Now, this isn't some speculative note. It is right there, plain as day, on Form S1 under the Securities Act of 1933. What does that mean? Well, it's very simple what it means. It means that it is official. You see the filing on your screen. This is a major signal because Bitwise, they wouldn't keep revising their filings unless the SEC was actively engaging with them. That's right. It means that conversations are happening behind closed doors, even with the government being shut down, even with the SEC running a skeleton crew. And if history repeats itself, which we know it's going to repeat itself, we know what comes next. That is approval. But just like we saw on Bitcoin, just like we saw on Ethereum, it starts with the filings, then small revisions, then suddenly you get the boom. The ETF's floodgates open and money starts pouring into spot XRP. This is how the system slowly legitimizes an asset before that money storm hits. And right now, XRP, it is in that exact phase. But the reason this matters isn't just ETF hype. It is actually what Ripple's building that requires this liquidity pipeline to exist. We're going to talk about that in a second and what Brad Garlinghouse said, but I want to bring you over to this, talking with the Bitwise president.
If the government reopens, like, do you expect, I mean, from your own XRP, and I don't know how much you can say on this, honestly, but from your own applications, do you expect, the SEC to, maybe launch those or approve those rather quickly, or is there still work to be done on the XRP ETF specifically?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Ellie. The honest answer is that I don't know. And the second part of the honest answer is that I because it's a registration statement that is not effective for the Bitwise XRP ETF, I need to be super cautious about what I do say. But I can say a few things. And what I can say is that when you want to avail yourself of this, what I will call the auto effective clause that allows the registration statement to automatically go effective, you're not just going alone. You as a registrant, you need to have a listing exchange that is willing to list the product. And so in the case of the Bitwise Solana staking ETF BSOL, that was the New York Stock Exchange. As you showed the pictures, we had the great event yesterday. The listing exchange needs to be comfortable that all of the disclosure requirements have been met, that the registrant and the registrant's outside counsel are comfortable that all of the requirements have been met. another great picture. Look at Toli, he's so excited. Each of these issuers has an auditor, required to have an auditor, and the auditor needs to sign off on this. There needs to be authorized participants. There need to be market makers. There need to be liquidity providers. So it's sort of like this whole ecosystem of others that need to be comfortable that the registration statement going effective.
Look, he doesn't want to say it. I'm going to say it for him. An XRP ETF is coming in the month of November, which leads us into Brad Garlinghouse, because this is where it gets deep. Brad Garlinghouse said something that completely reframes how we should think about XRP, right? He stated it's not about who actually holds it, but it's about what it connects. That one line, it exposes everything that you need to know, because XRP isn't designed to sit in your wallet and go up because of hype. No, it's not a meme coin, folks. It is designed to move value. Think of it like the oil that lubricates the world's financial engine. If the network handles trillions in a daily cross-border settlement, XRP's value must scale with the magnitude of the money that it is moving. That is not speculation. That is infrastructure. Listen to Brad here.
What is XRP, which is a technology, an open source technology that is kind of native to our products? We use XRP in our product stack, but there are scores of other companies building in and around the XRP ecosystem. People, will say things like, well, XRP has a CEO. And I'm like, who is it? Ripple has a CEO, that's me. There's scores, if not 100 other CEOs building around the XRP ecosystem. And I think that's when I hear people say that, I think, okay, they're not educated about what's going on. And so we need to educate people.
A lot of people not educated.
Obviously, you see that in a number of other tokens where there's a very distributed, very open source community. People don't understand. Ripple does not control XRP. It is open source. There have been amendments passed to the XRP open source technology that we opposed. We were against them and they still passed.
Look, this is what makes Ripple so different, okay? We're not talking meme coins or DeFi tokens. They're not selling a dream. They're actually building the plumbing for the global financial system. And that plumbing only works efficiently if XRP has a higher price. Lower value equals less liquidity equals slower transactions. You see the logic here? The network can't fulfill its mission unless the token appreciates. But while Ripple is building the rails, the macro backdrop, it is shifting, and it's shifting fast. And ironically, the US government shutdown, it might be giving Ripple the perfect cover to advance here. What am I talking about? Well, the shutdown effect. Let's talk about the macro environment for a second. The US shutdown, government shutdown, I should say, is expanding into its second month. Polymarket is saying that it probably won't open until after Thanksgiving, meaning if this drags on, we are talking about a 59-day shutdown, potentially the longest in history, right? Now, normally this would sound bearish, but historically, markets bounce hard once the shutdown comes to an end. In 2018, 2019, a 10% rally on the S&P. In 2016, we had the S&P jump over 3% in a day. So while the system locks up and liquidity pauses, the rebound that follows, it's explosive. Now imagine the same rebounds with trillions in fresh liquidity that is about to hit the system. And crypto is already primed here, folks, with ETFs and QE on the horizon. That isn't liquidity. That is the ignition. And this brings us back to Ripple though, because once the markets do rebound, liquidity flow becomes the name of the game. And Ripple's solution, it literally depends on it. Here you go. Here's the quote that changes everything. This is directly from Ripple. It says, if XRP has a higher value, it will increase the value of the solution because it increases the liquidity on the network. Now let that sink in for a second, because Ripple's entire model is the way it connects global banks, the way it connects your institutions and these cross-border system. And that all depends on XRP's price being higher. Because if the token is cheap, it can only move small amounts efficiently. But if it's worth more, what can it do? It can move massive amounts of value instantly. In plain English, a higher XRP price makes the RippleNet system more valuable, more efficient, and more scalable. So while most people are still debating whether XRP's price will go up or it can't go up because there's too many coins and the market cap's going to be too high, well, Ripple's leadership has already accepted that it has to. And that is not speculation. That is a necessity. And that is just the narrative that is being built. The Fed straps in with their next move. And that's the final piece of your puzzle piece, because we got Jerome Powell over here who is telling you that they will be adding reserves at a certain point. You understand what that means, right? It's coming back. And when that happens, when the Fed adds reserves, liquidity floods the market. The dollar value weakens. Hard assets like Bitcoin, gold, and yes, XRP, they all will rise. It is the same pattern every time. You get tightening, you get panic, you get liquidity, and then you get a little boom, boom, if you know what I mean. Only this time, the infrastructure is ready. ETFs are being filed, regulation, it's softening, and Ripple, they're building globally. The next phase of QE could supercharge assets like XRP, especially if they are positioned to move international value efficiently. But there's one final element that we need to talk about, because this cycle, it's not ending without them. We're talking altcoins. And here's what no one's saying out loud. Altcoins are still deeply, deeply, deeply undervalued. Historically, no crypto cycle ends until retail FOMO hits. When people flood back in, altcoin chasing the next 10x. Right now, that phase, it hasn't even started. If history repeats, and I firmly do believe that it will repeat, the next leg up won't just lift Bitcoin. It's going to ignite the entire market. And XRP, it's positioned as global liquidity infrastructure, and it could definitely lead that wave. Because when the money printer goes burr, ETFs, they open that floodgate. And institutions, they need fast, compliant liquidity as XRP becomes the bridge for it all. Let's recap this, right? We covered a lot. Bitwise ETF filing shows that XRP is finally getting involved in that mainstream convo. Garlinghouse confirms that XRP's true value is what lies in what it connects, not who actually holds it. The government shutdown is setting us up for the next liquidity rebound. Ripple's own words prove that XRP's price must rise to support the network. And the Fed, well, they're preparing to print yet again. Folks, remember, none of this info is hype. It is a monetary transition in real time. So the next time someone says to you that XRP's price doesn't need to go up, you just smile at them. Because Ripple already told us the truth. It has to go up. And when the floodgates open, those who actually understood and understand what is going on, they're going to be standing on the right side of history. And the question is, are you positioned for it? Make sure you hit that like button on your way out and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see all y'all on the next one.